बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूयॉर्क स्टेट दी कंग्रेशनल रेस बारे मैं जानकारी तुहाडे नाल शेयर करना चाहती हाँ। न्यूयॉर्क दे डिस्ट्रिक्ट 3 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਲੌਂਗ ਆਈਲੈਂਡ ਅਤੇ ਕੁਈਨਸ ਦੇ ਕੁਝ ਏਰੀਆਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਕਵਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਇੱਕ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਜਿਹਦੀ ਤਾਰੀਖ ਮੇਨ ਵੋਟਿੰਗ ਤਾਰੀਖ ਫੈਬਰੂਰੀ 13 ਦੀ ਸੈੱਟ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਆਲਰੇਡੀ अर्ਲੀ ਵੋਟਿੰਗ ਇਸ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਰੀ ਹੈ। ਫਾਰਮਰ ਕਾਂਗਰਸਮੈਨ ਟਾਮ ਸਵਾਜ਼ੀ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਸੀਟ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਪਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀ, ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫਿਰ ਇਸ ਸੀਟ ਲਈ ਲੜ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ। ਇੱਕ ਨਵੀਂ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਰਿਪਬਲਿਕਨ ਸਾਈਡ ਤੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਖੜੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਐਂਡ ਇਹ ਉਹ ਸੀਟ ਹੈਗੀ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਡਿਸਗ੍ਰੇਸਡ ਕਾਂਗਰਸਮੈਨ ਜਾਰਜ ਸੈਂਟੋਸ ਦੀ ਸੀਗੀ, ਰਿਪਬਲਿਕਨ, ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕੱਢਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਕਾਂਗਰਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਆਫ ਹਿਜ਼ ਇਲੀਗਲ ਐਕਟੀਵਿਟੀਜ਼ ਐਂਡ ਮਿਸਯੂਜ਼ ਆਫ ਕੈਂਪੇਨ ਫੰਡਸ। ਸੋ ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਲੌਂਗ ਆਈਲੈਂਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੈਟ ਟਾਮ ਸਵਾਜ਼ੀ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਸੀਟ ਲਈ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਇੱਕ ਫੰਡਰੇਜ਼ਰ ਦੀ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਅਤੇ ਇੰਟਰਵਿਊ ਦੀ ਝਲਕ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦਿਖਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਟਾਮ ਸਵਾਜ਼ੀ ਅਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਹੋਰਟ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੈਟਿਕ ਕਾਂਗਰਸਮੈਨ ਫਰਮ ਇਲੀਨੋਏ ਰੈਪਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟੇਟਿਵ ਰਾਜਾ ਕ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਨਾ ਮੂਰਤੀ ਜੁੜ ਕੇ ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਪ ਦੀ ਅਪੀਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਿਉਂ ਉਸ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੀ ਵੋਟ ਟਾਮ ਸਵਾਜ਼ੀ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ। ਆਓ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇਸ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਵੱਲ ਅਤੇ ਉਸ ਇੰਟਰਵਿਊ ਦੀ ਕਲਿੱਪ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਟਾਮ ਸਵਾਜ਼ੀ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਿਉਂ ਉਹ ਸਹੀ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਸ ਸੀਟ ਲਈ।
Hi, I'm a volunteer with Tom Suozzi for Congress. We wanted to see if you knew about the special election on February 13th to replace George Santos. Can I count on your vote for Tom Suozzi on February 13th? Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
I'll say, let me say a couple words. Tom really was and will be one of the finest members of Congress you're going to meet. I am honored to be here. Tom and I came into Congress together as classmates back in 2017. The same night a certain president with orange hair was elected. And Tom was just such a stalwart friend to the community back then and throughout his time in Congress. Tom was a defender of rights for everybody. He was a defender of prosperity for everyone, making sure everyone can get on the up escalator of the economy, regardless of whether you're working poor, whether you're growing a business, whether you are trying to reach the middle class. He's the person for the job. And that's why I feel so strongly about it.
Let's hear for Raja Krishnamurthy.
I'd like to welcome all of the JUS TV viewers watching to this special feature interview. In New York's 3rd Congressional District, a fiery race for the congressional seat is underway with candidates like a former congressman and a new entry to the field actively vying for votes here in parts of Long Island and Queens. We have some serious questions to ask to the Democratic candidate on the ballot this year. I have the great pleasure of interviewing tonight Congressman Tom Suozzi, former congressman from the 3rd Congressional District, hopeful future congressman as well. Congressman Suozzi, first of all, we love having you back on our network. The last time we spoke to you, you were running for governor a couple of years back. Now you're back vying for your old former seat, which unfortunately has been surrounded by controversy because of its former occupant,
George Santos.
And here we are today. You're getting so much love from the South Asian community in Long Island. First of all, Congressman Suozzi, I'd love to kick off with a message for the South Asians watching us today on why you should be their congressman again for the 3rd Congressional District.
Well, if I'm going to be talking to the South Asians, I first want to say thank you so much to everyone for the support and love you've given me for so many years. I have great relationships in the South Asian community over a long, long period of time. Back to when I was the mayor of Glen Cove, and we helped to open a Gurdwara in Glen Cove, the Sikh community. I always remind everybody, Sut Sri Akal, and Waheguru Ji Ki Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. And I really learned a lot about the Sikh community at that time. Then I was the Nassau County Executive. And as a Nassau County Executive, I had 3 or 4 South Asians in high-level positions in my government agencies, deputy commissioners, commissioners that were very involved in my government. And it was it was a tough time because I was elected in 2001, and there was a tremendous amount of discrimination against anybody with brown skin, but certainly anybody from India or Pakistan or somebody wearing a turban or wearing a sari. It was a tremendous amount of discrimination, but I always stood up for my friends, and my friends stood up for me. And throughout my career, I've always tried to look out for my friends. I visited to India. I met with the Prime Minister, Prime Minister Modi. I've been involved in any kind of legislation. I've tried to promote U.S.-Indian relationships. I was in Congress. I actually gave a $500,000 grant to a group called the India Home in Queens to help Indian Americans recognize that they have to screen for colon cancer. It's actually a very big issue in the Indian American community, and they don't realize that.
Wow.
So I've just always, I could go on and on with many things, but I've gotten a lot of love because I've given a lot of love, and I think together we've made things a little bit better for people.
Congressman, the attack ads are, at the highest volume that New Yorkers in this district have seen in the last few months. And the ones against you specifically pick apart a statement you've given on ICE, the obviously immigration enforcement body. Can you reiterate where you stand, considering that today the migrant crisis at the southern border is perhaps the #1 kitchen table issue for voters today?
The migrant crisis is very real. It has to be solved. It's going to require a bipartisan solution. I wrote an op-ed piece in the New York Times called The Grand Compromise with me and Peter King. Together, we wrote a compromise, how to solve the problem years ago. And I've always focused on that. One of the things they say in those ads against me is they say, Tom Suozzi said, I kicked ICE out of Nassau County. Well, when I was the county executive of Nassau County in 2007, ICE came to Nassau County. They had 96 warrants. It turned out that 90 of those 96 warrants were for the wrong addresses. And they broke down the doors of people's houses with families and children carrying shotguns, wearing cowboy hats, wearing all their gear. They all came from other parts of the country, came from Texas and Florida and other places, breaking down the doors. They pulled their guns on 2 Nassau County police officers. So my police commissioner came to me and said, Mr. County Executive, I can't work with these guys. They won't coordinate with us. They pulled their guns on our people. We can't work with them. So I wrote a letter to the Secretary of Homeland Security at the time, Michael Chertoff, and said, we're not working with you guys until you clean up your act. And they got their act in order, and then we worked with them again in the future. But I did kick them out when they were breaking the rules at the request of my police commissioner. In 2018, I was one of only 18 Democrats in the whole country that voted in favor of supporting ICE. So they don't tell you that part in their commercials. And I also was one of only half the Democrats that voted to support border funding. But the bottom line is, people are sick of all these attacks. They're sick of, you're one of those, they're no good, you're no good. Nothing's getting done. To solve the problems we face in our country and in our world, you need smart people who are willing to sit down and try to negotiate a settlement to find common ground. You can't find common ground. You can't solve complicated problems in an environment of fear and anger where everybody's just yelling at each other. It's impossible. Every problem we face is complicated, and you can't solve complicated problems yelling at each other or doing tweets or doing little sound bites. You have to sit down and have intelligent conversations to find common ground. I've done that throughout my entire career. As the mayor of Glen Cove, as a county executive, as a member of Congress, as someone trained as a lawyer and a certified public accountant, I know how to get things done. I know how to make things work, and I know how to negotiate compromise.
Congressman, when we talk about compromise and bipartisanship, specifically, if you were elected, who and how would you work with other members of the congressional caucuses so issues like education, curriculums, things that are being taught to our kids at school are not tampered with a political viewpoint and are actually true to history, true to the facts that exist today? Once again, whether it's the environment, science, history, how do you work with other members of Congress from across the aisle so our schools are a place of education and learning and not another political soapbox for, folks to work out their issues?
You're absolutely 100% right. When I was in Congress, I was the vice chairman of the Problem Solvers Caucus. 25 Democrats, 25 Republicans. We met every week to try and find common ground to hammer out solutions to problems. That's the only reason we got an infrastructure deal done that'll bring billions of dollars back to New York State for roads and bridges, the sewer and mass transit, and cleaning up the environment. I've worked on bipartisan deals to do the CHIPS Act, to bring semiconductors back to the United States of America. I worked on the Bipartisan PACT Act, which was to help soldiers who were affected by the burn pits when fighting in war. I was the chair of the bipartisan Long Island Sound Caucus to increase the funding from $4 million a year to $40 million a year to clean up the Long Island Sound and our bays and harbors and reintroduce shellfish back into the water again. I can go on and on and on. How do you know I'll do it? I can do it because I've done it. I've been doing it my entire life, working with people to solve problems. My opponent, on the other hand, is only using attack Republican talk points. She won't come on your show. She won't do debates. She won't even do town hall meetings where normal people get to ask her questions. They're running her campaign out of the basement because they're concerned that she doesn't really know the issues that well. Why else would a candidate running for the United States Congress, especially right after George Santos, be running such a non-transparent campaign? The New York Times and Newsday have both said that there are problems with her financial disclosure statements. How come they haven't been resolved? They asked her, who did you vote for president? In 2016 and 2020, the only 2 times she voted, by the way. She registered in 2012. She didn't vote till 2016 and then 2020, but she didn't vote all the other years, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19. They said, who did you vote for? She said, well, that's a personal decision. I'm not telling anybody. You're running for Congress and you won't say who you voted for president?
Well, she's a registered Democrat.
She's a registered Democrat running on the conservative line, which is if you read the conservative platform, you'd be terrified of the conservative platform.
Right.
So on every issue, immigration, I give solutions. She gives angry sound bites. When it comes to women, I say women should have the control of their reproductive freedom. She says, I like the Supreme Court's decision that overruled Roe versus Wade. When it comes to guns, she says, oh, I think we should not have assault weapons, automatic assault weapons. Well, I agree. It's been illegal in the United States since 1986. It's semi-automatic assault weapons, AR-15s, that we want to try and ban because they're being used to kill these kids in schools and these mass shootings. So you got to give specifics.
Right. I guess, Congressman Suozzi, in closing, early voting is officially underway. What information can you give directly to our viewers about getting the vote out, especially in the early voting period? We don't want anybody to wait for February 13th when the actual voting day takes place, if folks can get out beforehand. What can you tell them about that?
So actual election day is February 13th, a very odd day, but please make sure you vote if you haven't voted before then. Vote on February 13th. But early voting starts in 10 locations in Nassau and 4 locations in Queens, starting Saturday, February 3rd, and every day until Sunday, February 11th. You can vote early at these special locations. If you vote on February 13th, you vote at your regular voting location. So please, vote for somebody that's proven, that's tested, that has a record, that reaches out all the time to the South Asian community, that knows you, that you know this person, me, and that you'll work together to try and make people's lives better. Really needs your help. This is a very important race. Go to www.suozzi.com, Suozzi's SUOZZI.com, SuozziForCongress.com, and hope to see you on Election Day.
Once again, former Congressman Tom Suozzi running for the 3rd Congressional District of New York for his old seat once again. We're going to show you some scenes from the other South Asians that came to support Congressman Suozzi in this endeavor. And of course, Congressman, we wish you the best of luck. Thank you for taking the time with us.
Dhanyavad. Thank you.
You remember those dark days of 2016, 2017. Todd was there on the front lines every day. He was there fighting to protect the communities that he represented. He was fighting the racism and the bigotry and the prejudice that were directed at people of color and many communities. Tom is not like anything you saw with the previous occupant of this office.
Once again, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ former Congressman Tom Suozzi ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫਿਰ ਇਸ ਹੀ ਡਿਸਟ੍ਰਿਕਟ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਪਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਆਪ ਦਾ ਕੇਸ ਬਣਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਰਲ ਕੇ ਅਪੀਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਇਸ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਸਪੋਰਟਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਤੇ ਰਵਾਂਗਾ। ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਵੋਟ ਕਰੋਗੇ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਚੰਗਾ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਕਾਂਗਰਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫਿਰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਓਗੇ। ਵਾਂਸ ਅਗੇਨ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਲਈ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲਈ ਮੈਂ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਹਾਂ, ਇਸ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਚੈੱਕ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੰਗਰੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਡਿਸਟ੍ਰਿਕਟ 3 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈਗੇ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੋਟ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਰਜਿਸਟਰਡ ਹੋ। अर्ਲੀ ਵੋਟਿੰਗ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਜਾਰੀ ਹੈ। अर्ਲੀ ਵੋਟਿੰਗ ਦੀ ਲੋਕੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਤੇ ਡੇਟਸ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦਿਖਾ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਾਂ। ਜੋ ਮੇਨ ਡੇ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਅਗਲੇ ਟਿਊਜ਼ਡੇ ਫੈਬਰੂਅਰੀ 13 ਨੂੰ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਨੋਟ ਕਰ ਲਓ, ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ ਕੰਗਰੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਡਿਸਟ੍ਰਿਕਟ 3 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਇਹ ਵੋਟ ਬਹੁਤ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਵੋਟ ਹੈਗੀ। ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਗੈਸਟ ਲਈ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਕੁਐਸਚਨਸ, ਕਮੈਂਟਸ, ਕੰਸਰਨਸ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲਿਖ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ info@jusbroadcasting.com, ashmita@jusbroadcasting.com। ਹੁਣ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਦਿਓ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ। ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ।